is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Bruce, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from the Thursday, January 29th, 2026 issue of the Batavia Daily News, serving Genesee, Wyoming, and Orleans counties on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. One of the top stories, Tenney speaks on Minneapolis. Congresswoman says protests may be AstroTurf. Tenney speaks in support of law enforcement, calls Saturday's fatal shooting tragic. Article by Brian Quinn. While calling the death of Alex Preddy a tragedy, Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, Republican out of Cleveland, says people should not confront law enforcement who have dangerous jobs, following Tuesday's press conference to announce $10 million in federal funding for Phase 3 of Genesee County's countywide water project. Tenney was asked about the death of Preddy, a Minneapolis VA healthcare system intensive care unit nurse fatally shot Saturday by federal agents in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Tenney was asked whether if what happened to Alex Preddy had happened in New York, that would be an acceptable way to handle things, or would she want to scale things back? Tenney said she supports law enforcement 100%. These are well-trained individuals, she said. I do worry that the governor, Tim Walz, and the mayor in Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, are not acting in accordance with working with our law enforcement. The congresswoman said people need to understand that she's a lawyer and has a lot of police officer friends and colleagues. You do not interfere with a police officer that is acting pursuant to a legal warrant and a lawful warrant, which these are, she said. It's a tragedy that people are either being ginned up or they're getting paid or there's some kind of grassroots effort. Tenney said the protests may be AstroTurf, which suggests that grassroots support for an issue may be fake. There's money or logistics behind getting people to show up to protest against law enforcement in a very dangerous job in a very hostile situation, she said Tuesday. Tenney did not offer any evidence to support her claims that the protesters in Minneapolis were being paid. The public does not know who could be in a place where law enforcement is looking, Tenney said. It could be a very dangerous criminal. Usually they're not with other criminals, they're with innocent people who they may be extorting or hiding behind or getting cover from. We don't know that, she said. That's why I think we need to investigate these situations. We need to make sure we support law enforcement, that they're not intimidated or interfered with. Former acting director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, Tom Homan, who is now President Donald Trump's border czar, is going to de-escalate the situation in Minneapolis, Tenney said. He's compassionate. He knows about children who have been human trafficked all over our country because of the open border, she said. He also knows how to deal with enforcement and how to work with our elected officials. You already see Governor Walz, Mayor Frey, willing to work with him. I think it's really important to have law enforcement involved with assisting them. The congresswoman said people should think twice about going out and trying to protest and interfering in these dangerous law enforcement operations. They're not going after people who are innocent. They've already got a warrant of some kind that this person is a person being sought after, she said. What happened in Minneapolis is a tragic situation, Tenney said. I think a lot of these people don't get full information before they go out and protest, she said. Tenney asked why the media was asking about this when, before Saturday's fatal shooting happened, there were alleged fraud involving the Quality Learning Center, a daycare agency that closed in January. The center's last licensing review in June found several operational violations, but noted no evidence of fraud, CBS reported. Then, all of a sudden, these protesters magically appeared to go after ICE agents. Are we covering up the fraud? Probably that's part of it, she said. Mainstream news sites, including the Minnesota Star Tribune, have reported on cases of social services fraud in Minnesota for years. The issue has also been covered extensively by Minnesota Public Radio, local television stations, Sahan Journal, and the Minnesota Reformer, the New York Times noted in a recent story. Nobody should lose his or her life, and people should not be confronting law enforcement, Tenney told the media. They should be respectful. It's not a cop on the beat when you're doing these type of investigations and warrant executions, she said. I think people need to distinguish that. People need to speak out on that. These are tough jobs. A reporter mentioned that Tenney has emphasized freedom of speech on X, formerly Twitter. He also said there was no violent protest going on when Preddy was shot. I'm all for freedom of speech, she said, but claimed there are violent protests. Have you watched the videos? Tenney said she did not want to get into Saturday's incident further. It has to be investigated. We don't know what the facts are. There's all kinds of videos, she said. We should have a full all-of-government approach. Federal, state, local should all look into it. That's why Tom Homan's going there. Gillibrand calls for Trump to stop tariff threats against Canada. Article by Brian Quinn. U.S. Senator Christian Gillibrand on Wednesday called for President Donald Trump to stop threatening tariffs against American allies. Businesses are suffering and good-paying jobs across New York are put in jeopardy, she said during a virtual press conference. Trump's tariffs have significantly raised costs for American families and small businesses, she said. During the first year in office, the president slapped tariffs on over 90 countries. These tariffs have already cost New York households about $4,200 last year. That's money that could have gone to groceries or rent or gas. Over the weekend, Trump threatened to impose 100% tariffs on Canadian goods. He also said that the U.S. would levy a 25% tariff on South Korean goods. Earlier this month, the president threatened a 10% tariff on NATO countries unless the United States is given Greenland. The Constitution grants Congress the power to regulate foreign commerce, impose tariffs, and collect revenue. According to Congress.gov, Congress has long enacted laws authorizing the president to adjust tariff rates on goods in certain circumstances. Courts have generally upheld these laws against constitutional challenges, holding that they do not impermissibly delegate Congress's legislative power over tariffs to the executive branch. Everyday Americans are being betrayed by this administration. If the president follows through on his latest threats to raise tariffs on Canadian goods, New Yorkers will be forced to pay an even higher price, Gillibrand said. Nearly every industry in upstate New York has vital ties to Canada. Over half of our state's exported food and agricultural products head north. The senator noted upstate New York farmers rely on Canadian potash, natural resources. Canada says potash refers to a group of minerals and chemicals that contain potassium, a vital nutrient for plants and a key component in fertilizer to fertilize their fields. Breweries from Western New York to Long Island use barley malted in Canada for their award-winning beers. Canadian electricity helps heat our homes and our businesses, she said. An increased tariff on goods to Canada would increase costs for all of this, and New York families would be stuck paying the bill. Everyday New Yorkers tell me they are worried about how they're going to make ends meet with these rising costs, she continued. At a time when prices are already high on everything, working families can't afford to pay more for what they need, Gillibrand said. This has to stop. New Yorkers shouldn't have to live in fear because of actions of our president. They shouldn't have to see food prices spike because of the president's recklessness, she said. They shouldn't have to consider Trump's tariffs every time they want to turn up their thermostat. Among the questions for Gillibrand Wednesday was whether she sees Republicans in the House of Representatives or Senate moving to stem some of the tariff issues. She said Republican Senators Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Rand Paul of Kentucky, and Tom Tillis of North Carolina have joined Democrats to block Canadian tariffs in the past. I'm hoping that these senators will keep pushing to really stop these chaotic tariffs and make sure that their states and their small businesses aren't harmed, Gillibrand said. United Way announces $17 million campaign goal. Saunders discusses Way of Being as annual fundraiser kicks off. Article by Dan Foltz. The United Way of Greater Rochester and the Finger Lakes launched its 2026 campaign on Wednesday morning with a $17 million fundraising goal. Last year, the charity organization raised $16.7 million for support of local programs and services in a 6-county area. Partners of United Way in the Glow region that received funding last year include the Geneseo Groveland Emergency Food Pantry, the Dansville Food Pantry, the Gillum Grant Community Center in Bergen, and Catholic Charities of Steuben and Livingston counties. The annual campaign shows us what's possible when individual acts of generosity become collective power, said Jamie Saunders, President and CEO of United Way of Greater Rochester and Finger Lakes. Last year, during a time of real uncertainty, this community showed the caring power it holds, supporting neighbors they may never meet, but whose lives were changed because they chose to give. We are incredibly thankful to the thousands of donors, workplace partners, nonprofits, and community leaders who made our work possible, Saunders said. The United Way was able to support 100,000 individuals in areas of health and well-being last year, as well as 9,800 youth in services connected to learning and opportunity, and 91,000 people in crisis and recovery assistance, noted Saunders. Over 1,100 nonprofits were supported through a range of funding and resources, and 14,000 volunteers were mobilized through Volunteer United, she said. A record-breaking 6,300 of you showed up on a single day of caring in May. Last month, nearly $1 million was raised in 24 hours for Rock the Day, Saunders said. For the 2026 fundraising season, United Way will partner with Bond, Schoeneck and King, Harder, Seacrest and Emery, Nixon Peabody, Harris Beach Murtha, and Phillips Lytle, who will provide matching for donations up to $325,000. ESL Federal Credit Union and Five Star Bank will also offer an additional $350,000 in challenge grants for leadership donors. Saunders is hopeful that the United Way will meet its fundraising goal, citing workplace contributions from Wegmans, Paychex, and University of Rochester, whose employees alone raised over $5 million. This past year, I've had the privilege of seeing our community at its very best. I've witnessed the power of collective action, the ripple effect of generosity, and the incredible impact that happen when we all fall in the same direction, said KeyBank Market President and 2025 fundraising campaign chair Vince Leach. I've met families whose lives were changed by the work we fund. I've stood alongside volunteers who gave their time, their talents, and their hearts, and I've seen firsthand what's possible when business leaders decide that doing good is just as important as doing well, Leach said. Taking over for Leach this year as 108th fundraising chair will be Ed Hurahan, managing partner for the law firm Bond, Schoeneck and King. I am thrilled to chair this year's campaign, said Hurahan. In this community where I work, where I live, where I raise my family and serve, I have witnessed time and again the power of people coming together to make a difference. Neighbors, helping children to excel at school, and helping communities thrive after disaster. From all corners of this 6-county region, there is incredible heart and resiliency, Hourahan said. I have full confidence that we will have another successful campaign. Every dollar, every volunteer hour, and every act of generosity brings us closer to our goal, Hourahan said. The United Way of Greater Rochester and the Finger Lakes focuses on 4 impact areas, including youth opportunity, financial security, healthy community, and community resiliency. One acronym that they have used is called ALICE, or Assist Limited Income Constrained Employed. This describes households that earn above the federal poverty level but not enough to afford the necessities. They estimate that it takes about $98,942 in earnings, or 4 times the federal poverty level to cover the essentials for a family of 4 with children and child care, with 40% of people in their service area falling below the ALICE threshold. Over half of elderly households, 52%, also fall below the ALICE threshold. United Way focuses on providing these households the resources they need to thrive, according to their website. A teacher that has to drive DoorDash in the afternoon and make ends meet. A senior that, after spending their Social Security on rent, has $200 left to live for the month. These are things that are going on in our community and across the country. And that's one of the reasons why we are all here, Hourahan said. United is the way is not just a slogan, it's a way of being, Saunders said, closing out her remarks on Wednesday. We show up for one another. We do what we can to create the kind of community we want to see, because when that doorbell rings, an older adult answers, and a volunteer is there with a warm meal, they find more than nourishment for the body. They find it for the soul. When a family fleeing violence is provided a security deposit and essentials, they are provided more than safety, but a fresh start. And when a struggling child finds mentorship and care in an after-school program, they find more than belonging. They can see a brighter future. It is never just one story, one family, or one moment. It is thousands of moments happening simultaneously across our entire region, each one creating a ripple effect beyond measure, Saunders said. For more information about the United Way of Greater Rochester and the Finger Lakes, visit www.unitedwayrocflex.org. That's unitedwayrocflex.org. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Batavia Daily News on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Storm response garners kudos. Town of Batavia supervisor gives thanks for storm response. Article by Brian Quinn. Not quite a month ago, a Town of Batavia plow truck driver could have lost his life when a large part of a tree fell on the truck he was driving, December 29th. That incident was one that Town Supervisor Gregory Post recalled recently when the town board met. He said the plow truck was one of numerous vehicles to sustain damage during the winter storm that hit in the last days of 2025. Batavia acknowledged the response of town staff to the storm and the efforts by the community and personnel from other towns in a resolution it passed when it met last week. The work in the town at the end of December involved clearing and removing trees, debris, snow, and ice from roads while navigating near hurricane velocity winds, fallen and low-hanging electric, and other utility wires. Numerous Town of Batavia vehicles were compromised by falling trees, along with unpreventable mechanical issues due to components failures, leaving town staff only one plow vehicle to maintain the entire town. We had an enormously heavy sugar maple tree fall on a moving snowplow in the hamlet of East Pembroke at the peak of that windstorm while they were plowing and sanding that road, Post said. If you don't believe in a higher power, this should convince you that there is something out there that protected the operator of that vehicle. Post continued to describe what happened. The tree trunk hit probably 18 inches behind the cab of the truck he was seated in. It crushed the salter, the dump body, the frame, drove the sander wheel into the pavement, he said. Stopped the truck instantly. It just crushed the truck flat. A tree limb that hit the truck's dump body smashed the cab on the passenger side. It broke the windshield, missing the driver's side by inches, Post recounted. Power wires fell on the truck. No one was seriously injured in that, he said. The response from the fire department, National Grid, his ability to extricate himself safely without any permanent injury, he was pretty stiff and sore. The difference between life and death was less than a fraction of a second, Post estimated. Within hours of that incident, another truck had a rare thing happen to it, according to the town supervisor. A component failure that had never been experienced in 50 years contributed to a grease fire on two wheels on a heavy-duty snowplow in a very remote part of the town in a whiteout condition, Post said. The driver in that incident was not hurt, but put out the flames using snow. The driver got the truck back to the shop and then to a place where it could be repaired. The resolution the town board passed Wednesday acknowledged the help of a number of people, including Town of Alabama Highway Superintendent Jeff Colville for his help in diagnosing some salt spreader controls. Town of Oakfield Highway Superintendent Mike Schultz and his staff for keeping some of the town of Batavia roads clear while vehicle repairs were made. Town of Stafford Highway Superintendent Steve Bolt for the temporary use of a plow truck and sander. Dan Mamek of Ag Diesel for air freighting parts and working long hours through the holiday to get a truck back in service in record time. The East Pembroke Volunteer Fire Department for responding with life-saving expertise and equipment when a large tree fell on and crushed the plow truck. National Grid for the response to remove downed high voltage power wires at the scene of the plow truck incident. All the others that allowed the community to safely navigate the frigid tempest. Deputy Mayor Dan Underhill gave thanks that no one was hurt during the storm. Post said he appreciated the staff and community members who contributed over roughly the last week and a half to 2 weeks to assist town staff as they worked through unbelievable environmental conditions. These near hurricane wind events and these unbelievable snowstorms and this constant around-the-clock need to be available for other responders and utility companies, and how well everyone in this organization and this community has done collaboratively. I'd like to offer some special recognition to the Armbruster family for feeding the highway department on New Year's Eve. They purchased and provided dinner for the guys who were out on the plow trucks. They were well fed while they prepared for their next volley of snow fighting. Post thanked Secretary to the Supervisor Ashley Brownell, Town Board Member Patty Mikulak, and Underhill for the care package the highway staff and Water and Sewer Department employees received over the 3 days of bad weather. The package was well received, something Post said he appreciated. During the storm, there was also a town employee whose family had some personal trouble, such as health problems. The town responded well, with staff donating sick time and vacation time so that employee could have the flexibility to care for his family. I just take the time to thank everybody and to know that we are all truly blessed, Post said. City Council declines to formally thank outgoing members. Lawmakers discuss suggestion at Monday's meeting. Article by Brian Quinn. City lawmakers this week discussed whether to formally thank each other for their service when they leave office, but decided not to change anything. Council member at large Nicholas Lord noted other governing bodies, including the Genesee County Legislature, thank outgoing previous members formally. When that acknowledgement didn't happen with former city council members this year, folks in the community noticed, Lord said. They asked why, because thanking those for their service has long been understood as a part of how government shows continuity and respect. Lord said at Monday's meeting the council should discuss making that thanks formal in the future. City Manager Rachel Tabelski said outgoing council members received thanks for their service and new members were welcome. Personally, I didn't sign up for this to get an award at the end of it. I do this because it's my civic duty, and I'm giving back to my community, Council President Eugene Jankowski Jr. said. I just feel that we have a budget to look at. We have a lot to do at tonight's meeting. Lord said, rather than a formal award, it could be a simple thank you. Someone dedicates 4 or 8 years of their time and service, says it is not an easy thing. A simple thank you would go a long way. Showing gratitude to the lawmakers who preceded the current council would also encourage those who are considering running, he said. A couple of council members responded. Kathy Briggs said she has personally thanked outgoing council members for their service. It seems like everyone kind of feels like this is a pointless thing that we don't need to make happen, said Council Member Derek Geib. Rachel thanked them when they leave. We thank them when they get on. If somebody is running because they can get a thank you, they're probably running for their own reason. I don't want to get thanked when I go out. Lord asked if it is a resource issue. Do we think it's a waste of resources to thank people who came before us? He asked. I think this is currently a waste of time, Gabe said. Lord then agreed with the idea of thanking outgoing lawmakers and moving on. Jankowski said he understood where Lord was going with the idea. I don't know if it's time or place to be talking about giving ourselves an award when we have such a daunting task ahead of us, he said. The January 12th meeting would have been a better time for a discussion, Jankowski said. However, he noted that some of the members didn't stay for the entire meeting, leaving before the end of an executive session, so nothing could have been done then. Data center session set for Monday in Alabama. Stream Data Centers will host an information session Monday evening on its proposed data center. The event will begin 6 p.m. at the Town of Alabama Fire Hall on 2230 Judge Road. It's open to the public and advance registration is not required. Stream has also created a website which summarizes the project and addresses many of the concerns which have been raised to date in various forums, organizers said, a news release. Visit streamwesternnewyork.com for more information. That's streamwny.com. The open house was originally set for this past Monday, but was postponed due to winter storm conditions. Retired teachers offer educator grants. Public schools educators in Genesee County are eligible for grants from the Retired Educators of New York Western Zone. 5 grants of $1,000 will be awarded to help educators enhance their programming. Categories include funding for classrooms to enhance and support student learning, an out-of-classroom cultural presentation by or for students. Public school teachers in Cattaraugus, Chautauqua, Erie, and Niagara counties are also eligible. Letters have been sent to all building principals. Those interested are encouraged to contact their principals for a grant application and information. All applications must be postmarked by February 28th. Applications may also be submitted online by February 28th to mhager9115. That's MHAGER9115 at gmail.com. Recipients will be announced April 15th at the Rennie Western Zone Boarding Board meeting. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Batavia Daily News on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Hawley announces satellite hours. Assemblyman Steve Hawley has announced outreach and satellite hours. As a public servant, being accessible is one of Hawley's highest priorities, his office said in a news release. His staff will be ready to help any constituents with their needs. I want to encourage everyone to stop by these Monroe County office outreach hours or these regular Genesee County office hours to address your needs, Hawley, Republican out of Batavia, said in a news release. Satellite hours will be conducted 3 to 5 p.m. February 9th at Mumford Branch Library on 883 George Street in Mumford. Satellite office hours for Genesee County will be noon to 5, February 11th, 18th, and 25th at 420 East Main Street in Batavia. Friends of RML planning book sale. The Friends of the Richmond Memorial Library Group will conduct its monthly book sale next week. The sale will take place 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. February 5th at the library on 19 Ross Street. A special second sale will follow 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. February 7th at the same location. Livingston County to create registry of animal abusers. Website will include names, addresses, photos, and more. Article by Sol Hauser. People convicted of certain crimes against animals will soon be required to register in the public database in Livingston County. The Animal Abuser Registry will list the names, photos, convictions, and home addresses of people convicted of any of 16 misdemeanor and felony charges set out by New York state law, including those convicted of lesser charges as part of a plea bargain. Offenders will pay a $150 fee upon registration and be required to update their listing within 5 days of a move or name change. The law creating the registry passed unanimously in the Livingston County Board of Supervisors Wednesday afternoon. Les Sparta Town Supervisor Mark Schuster, who was absent. It's something that is needed, in the sense that veterinarians and breeders can look into those who have been convicted of animal abuse, said Canisius Town Supervisor Don Wester, who led the effort to create the registry alongside West Sparta's Sue Ertl. The law will take effect immediately upon receipt by the state, making Livingston County the 26th of New York's 62 counties and the 4th in Western New York to maintain an animal abuse registry after Cattaraugus, Chautauqua, and Niagara counties. Names of offenders will be listed for 15 years after release from jail or 15 years after the date of conviction. For those who don't serve time, repeat offenders will be listed for life. Failing to register will be a Class A misdemeanor punishable by up to a year in jail and a $1,000 fine, while violating a ban on animal ownership will be punishable by up to a year and a $5,000 fine. Livingston County's registry will be maintained by the Livingston County Sheriff's Office, similar to most in the state, which are managed by county sheriffs or district attorneys' offices. That approach isn't universal. New York City is maintained by its Department of Health, while Albany and Nassau counties' registries are maintained by nonprofit organizations. Livingston County's law also won't require animal shelters or sellers to look up adopters in the registry, unlike some counties which make giving or selling an animal to someone on the list an offense punishable by fines up to $2,000. Pat Valusek, president of the New York State Humane Association, said such county-to-county difference illustrate the need for a single statewide registry. The registry applies to the county which the convicted person is in, Valusek said in a phone interview last week with the Livingston County News. If that person, for example, left Ulster County and went over to Sullivan County, the likelihood of someone checking the Ulster County Register to see about this person is not that likely. Bills creating such a registry had been proposed in the state legislature since 2011, but none have passed. Hope Center purchases permanent home in Leroy. The Hope Center of Leroy, based nonprofit organization dedicated to providing hope through meaningful community programs, has purchased its first permanent home, said Director Gina Lathan. The organization closed on the property at 54-56 Main Street in Leroy on January 23rd. Nathan called it a major milestone in the Hope Center's history. Founded in 2017, the Hope Center began with a simple mission. Lathan said, to meet people where they are and provide hope through supportive, inclusive programming. Since its start, Hope Center has operated out of a rented space at 46 Main Street. The organization has steadily expanding its reach throughout Leroy and the greater Glow region. Over the years, the organization has grown beyond what its current location can accommodate, and the dream of owning a building long felt financially out of reach, Lathan said. That dream became a reality thanks to Peter Gallagher, a real estate investor and principal of BPST Pete LLC. She said Peter stepped forward not only to support the purchase of the building, but also to help make possible a full renovation of the main level. The newly purchased building is known to many longtime residents as the Economy and later the Hobby Horse Antique Store. It has been home to several other businesses in between. Latham said the location will be transformed into a true community center located right in the heart of downtown Leroy and the center of the Glow region. Once renovations are complete, the Hope Center building will include a dedicated tutoring center, a spacious Senior Moments Respite Program area, 2 community event spaces available for gatherings, celebrations, and meetings, a community resource room including a little free library, puzzles, games, books, and living resources, a certified kitchen, ADA compliant restrooms, office and meeting rooms available for rent, staff offices. Latham said the expanded space will allow Hope Center to grow and strengthen each of its core programs. The Hope Center programs include Fresh Start Tutoring, will benefit from a dedicated, welcoming learning environment designed to better support students and tutors. Senior Moments Respite Program will have increased space to serve families of loved ones living with Alzheimer's and dementia with safety, comfort, dignity, and flexibility. Made to Bloom, Women's Health and Wellness Programming will expand with room for workshops, support groups, and wellness-focused gathering. Men's of Hope Community Outreach will have space to grow mentorship, connection, and outreach opportunities. Our new building allows us to expand not just our space, but our impact, Lathan said. It gives us the ability to dream bigger, serve to the community evolving needs of our community. A community call to action. Hope Center is launching the Hope Center Building campaign with a fundraising goal of $400,000 to support renovations, program expansion, and long-term sustainability. In addition to donations, the Hope Center is offering room sponsorship as multiple giving levels. Hope Center also welcomes volunteer contributions of time and talent to help transform the building into a vibrant community space. Latham said, those interested in contributing or learning more can visit hopecenterofleroy.org. That's hopecenterleroy.org. Hope Center hosts a housewarming celebration. Hope Center invites the entire community to attend a Hope Center house warming celebration from 3 to 7 p.m. January 30th at the center's current home, 42 Main Street, Leroy. Guests are encouraged to stop in, explore the current space, view architectural renderings of the planned renovations, and hear more about Hope Enters vision for the future. As a thank you, everyone who attends will receive a coupon for 10% off of dinner at one of the several participating local restaurants. Coming to life. Batavia players present the Cemetery Club this weekend. Article by Brian Quinn. Audiences will take in a comedy or a dramedy, or both, when they pay their respects to the Cemetery Club on stage at the Main Street 56 Theater this weekend. It dips into dramedy, but it is mostly a comedy. There are some more dramatic, touching spots in the show. Director Heather Ferris said, "It's very easy to pick up the comedy. It's very well written in that way." The Cemetery Club is Batavia Player Inc.'s first show of the 2026 season. According to the Batavia Player's synopsis, three friends, Doris, played by Dorothy Gerhardt, Lucille, Trish O'Brien Miller, and Ida, Carol Wolfe, have faithfully met once a month for tea before heading to the cemetery to visit their late husbands. When one woman decides she's ready to open herself up to love again, the balance of the tight-knit club is shaken and long-buried feelings come bubbling to the surface. Ferris says it's easier for her to work one-on-one with a smaller cast. The cast actually gets to blend a lot quicker and easier, and they mesh very well when it's a smaller cast. When you have that larger cast, you've got people that don't get to interact with others much, she said. The other two cast members are Mark Anderson, playing Sam, and Jessica Carlson, playing Mildred. The Cemetery Club will start at 7:30 p.m. Friday and Saturday, and at 2 p.m. Sunday. Tickets online are $22 for adults and $20 for students and seniors. At the door, tickets are $24 for adults and $22 for students and seniors. It's a very touching show about lifelong friends, Ferris said. It's very lighthearted, it's fun. It's been a really rough January with all this weather. This is a way to lift everyone's spirits and let them have a little laugh toward the end of January. Gerhardt, Miller, and Wolfe play characters who have been friends for 20 years. Wolfe said it hasn't been tough for the three of them to become characters who are lifelong friends. "I think it worked out really well. We clicked right off," she said. Miller said she feels as if she's known Wolfe her whole life. "That easily clicked with the three of us," Miller said. "And then Jessica is like that, my spiritual animal. spirit animal. I think we all bring different experiences and different times of life. I just think we have a really meshed really well. Rehearsals began during Christmas and New Year's. In-person rehearsals gave way to major storms over the last couple of weeks. We did a very large amount of our rehearsals via Teams and Zoom. A lot of it's been virtual, Miller said. It's almost like we learned the play once and then we had to learn it twice because of the difference between and reality. It's actually made it more intriguing, more interesting. More challenging, Wolf chimed in. The play shows true friendship and adversity, Miller said. 1 minute you're giggling, and the next minute you're throwing a tear down, and then maybe hearty laughing, and then maybe getting a little spicy, she said. I think it's got a lot of everything for everyone. Carlson said the public should come to the show because the Cemetery Club is a show about longevity and friendships and what makes life special. It's those people that you have in your life, she said. I think it's a really great show. Grab your girlfriends, grab your husbands. It's a laugh for anybody. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Batavia Daily News on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Star-studded 80s music project to finally return after 40 years. A star-studded 1980s music project is finally coming back. Wendy Dio, the widow and longtime manager of legendary Central New York native Ronnie James Dio, announced at the Metal Hall of Fame that a long-lost 1985 charity single will be reissued next year. Stars, released under the name Here in Aid, featured 40 metal and rock artists, helping to raise money for famine relief in Africa and around the world. Ronnie James Dio, or Dio, known for his work with Black Sabbath, Rainbow, and his eponymous band Dio, led the collaboration and co-wrote Stars. Others who donated their time and talents include Rob Halford, Judas Priest, Jeff Tate, Queensryche, Neil Schon, Journey, Ted Nugent, and members of Motley Crue, Iron Maiden, Twisted Sister, Blue Oyster Cult, Quiet Riot, Dokken, Night Ranger, and Spinal Tap. According to Blabbermouth, the musicians met to record the project in May of 1985, but Stars wasn't released until January of 1986 due to contract differences with the artists' labels. The song appeared on the charity album titled Here in Aid, along with songs by Kiss, Motorhead, Rush, and Jimi Hendrix. Here in Aid reportedly raised more than $3 million for famine relief in Africa, but didn't receive as much mainstream acclaim as other celebrity-filled charity singles like 1985's We Are the World and 1984's Do They Know It's Christmas. Wendy Dio told Reality Check TV on Wednesday that the reissue of Stars will finally arrive in 2027. An exact date has not been announced. She previously told SiriusXM radio host Eddie Trunk that it will likely include both a new version with younger bands and the original recording of Stars because the old version was only ever on, I think, vinyl and cassette. A special package will be released with a CD and DVD featuring bonus content and raise money for the Ronnie James Dio Stand Up and Shout Cancer Fund, a 501(c)(3) nonprofit charitable fund dedicated to support research and education that furthers early detection, prevention, and treatment of prostate, colon, and stomach cancers. Ronnie James Dio, who was born Ronald James Padavona in New Hampshire and raised in Cortland, New York, was a metal singer who famously replaced Ozzy Osbourne in Black Sabbath and popularizing devil horns in rock and roll. A street was named after him in Cortland. Dio Way, and he was posthumously awarded a Sammy's Lifetime Achievement Award from the Syracuse Area Music Hall of Fame in 2014. He died of stomach cancer in 2010. He was 67. Def Leppard guitarist Vivian Campbell, who co-wrote Stars with Ronnie James Dio and Jimmy Bain when they were all in Dio, told Guitar Interactive magazine in 2023 that the project came during a dark time when Ronnie and Wendy were separated. They got the idea for Stars during a radio interview when a DJ asked why no hard rock artists were asked to participate in We Are the World. And we thought, you're absolutely right. And this was an era when hard rock was really sort of shunned. I mean, it never got nominated for a Grammy or anything. There was no real industry recognition, even though it was a very, very popular cultural force and sold in multi-millions. But the industry was yet to really fully recognize it as being legit, Campbell said. And so anyways, we were joking about this, and it was Jimmy he was a funny guy, and Jimmy right off the bat said, yeah, we should do one. We should call it Hear and Aid. We were all like, ha ha ha, we fell off our stools. And then we went back to our apartment, and Jimmy said, well, do you want to actually do this? And I said, really? And I mean, do we have time for this? And he said, yeah. So Jimmy and I wrote the song. We didn't put the lyrics. We put the music together. Campbell continued. We thought, we're not going to get this off the ground without Ronnie. We need some clout. We need the name. So we went to the studio the next day. As I said, we're in the middle of doing the Sacred Heart album. Ronnie's in a real dark spot. We offer it and we say, Ronnie, what about this? He immediately shuts it down. No interest. So we keep pushing it on him for a couple of weeks. And then eventually, he came back to us and said, you know what? Yeah, I'll get on board with this. So he wrote the lyric for it. Campbell said he and a publicist worked together to recruit other artists, cold calling people like John Bon Jovi, who did not participate, and Shone. Few people would commit until Ronnie James Dio got on board. It was something I'd never done before, but I spent weeks and weeks and weeks doing it, Campbell said, and so it all came together, and it was just bonkers. That it did. New York State Fair announces first concert of 2026 lineup, and it's a hot one. Article by Jeff Herbert. The New York State Fair is heating up winter with its first concert announcement for the 2026 lineup. Sean Paul will perform at the New York State Fair's Suburban Park stage on Thursday, August 27th at 8 p.m. The concert is free to attend with fair admission. Paul is a Grammy-winning Jamaican rapper and singer, best known for dancehall reggaeton hits like Temperature, Get Busy, No Lie with Dua Lipa, She Doesn't Mind, Gimme the Light, Baby Boy with Beyonce, Cheap Thrills with Sia, Rockabye with Clean Bandit, We Be Burnin', and Give It Up to Me. He currently averages more than 53 million monthly listeners on Spotify. Fair officials teased the announcement Tuesday with a concert clue of a baby boy that appeared sick and running a fever, referencing the songs Baby Boy and Temperature. Fans who share, and correctly guess answers on the New York State Fair's official Facebook and Instagram pages can potentially win 2 free admission tickets and a parking pass. We couldn't be more excited to launch into 2026 with the news that Sean Paul is coming to Suburban Park. His vibrant energy and global appeal make him one of the most exciting performers to see live, said Fair Director Julie LeVave. In a statement, Sean Paul's first-time Fair performance is sure to be a high-energy, unforgettable experience for fans and newcomers alike. We're expecting a fantastic turnout for what promises to be a night of great music and thrilled to share that this is just the beginning. Stay tuned for more exciting performer announcements to come. Paul is the first of 41 national recording acts that will be announced for this year's lineup over the coming months. The 2026 New York State Fair runs from Wednesday, August 26th to Labor Day, Monday, September 7th, at the New York State Fairgrounds in Geddes, just outside of Syracuse. Concerts take place on two main stages, Suburban Park and Chevy Court. Suburban Park will host the fair's largest concerts in the New York Experience area, on the west end near Gate 10, in the back of the Midway, and past the Expo Center. Chevy Court is located near Gate 1, next to the Center of Progress building, and by the Dairy Products building. Both had limited seating available. All Suburban Park shows will be held at 8 p.m. each evening, while Chevy Court will feature shows daily at 1 p.m. and 6 p.m. There will also be two special additional shows at 9 p.m. on Friday, August 28th and Friday, August 4th at Chevy Court. Last year's lineup included a variety of artists performing rock, rap, country, pop, and other genres. Jesse Murph, Shaggy, and Leonard Skinner drew the biggest crowds of 2025 with more than 30,000 fans each. No tickets are required for concerts. All are free with admission to the fair, which will cost $8 again this year, and free for seniors 65 and older and kids 12 and under. New York State Fair concert schedule, August 27th at 8 p.m., Sean Paul at Suburban Park. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the Thursday, January 29th, 2026 issue of the Batavia News, the daily news online, serving Genesee, Wyoming, and Orleans counties. We read from the Batavia Daily News every Saturday at 9 a.m. Your reader has been Bruce. Thank you for listening. And as always, make it a great day.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have the East Aurora Advertiser. At 11 o'clock, we have the Niagara Gazette. And at noon, we have the Dunkirk Observer. Stay with us for these readings and more throughout the day. Radio Reading mails out a large print program schedule to our listeners every other month. If you have not received a Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service large print program schedule in the mail, please call us at 716-821-5555. We will make sure that you receive one every other month. A Braille version of the schedule is also available upon request. Our number again is 716-821-5555. following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision,